The PS2 version of Altered Beast, which I'll just call Altered Beast from now on for simplicity's sake, starts with a cutscene of an helicopter transporting some sort of package with a strange logo written on top of it. The contents of the package are apparently secret, as the two pilots of the helicopter seem to discuss in confusion what it is they are actually even transporting and why are they even flying through what's supposed to be like an isolated zone in the first place. As they discuss, the helicopter is suddenly attacked by a winged creature and it's destroyed. While the helicopter is destroyed, though, it seems that the package was sturdy enough to survive the impact mostly intact, and has something seems to open it from inside. It is revealed that the package's contents were a man who seems to be suffering from amnesia, as he either doesn't know or doesn't remember why he's in this situation in the first place. As you take control of this man and explore around, you will find laying close to you a document which seems to talk about something called a genome chip. As you're reading, though, you are suddenly attacked by a horde of monsters, and just as it seems like they're about to tear you apart, something inside you activates, like a sort of mechanism which begins to transform your body into that of a werewolf, allowing you to fight off the monsters. As you destroy what seems to be their leader, you suddenly fall to the ground, however, seemingly in pain, which is when a woman suddenly appears and injects something in you, which is revealed to be a tranquilizer, which helps you to revert back to your human form. She tries to explain your transformation abilities to you, but you don't seem to remember anything due to the amnesia I mentioned earlier. And so, seeing as you probably won't be able to understand anything she's even saying, and given that the situation seems to be mostly under control, she decides to go off on her own, leaving you alone and with a ton of questions in your mind, unable to follow after her due to how exhausted your body is. After that, you're pretty much given a gameplay tutorial and are left to explore the world of Altered Beast. From there on, you follow a pretty linear progression system, with the areas literally being like named after numbers, like area 1, area 2, area 3, etc., and you're actually supposed to like progress them in that order. You're not meant to like sequence break or like be able to explore these areas out of order in any way, as you kind of need things that you can only get from previous areas to advance to those newer areas. Like if like to progress through area 9, for example, you're probably going to need something which you only acquire in area 6 or 7, and to get through area 7 you need to get something that you can only get in area 6, etc. And how does that progression system occur? Well, you're not just limited to the werewolf. The werewolf is your first transformation, but using it, you're meant to advance through the game and fight bosses, with each major boss either providing you with a new transformation or a new ability for a previous transformation, which is what allows you to progress through the areas. It's quite all well structured in a, again, very linear way, but in a way that is fun and interesting to progress through. It's all very, like, again, well structured. in order to make the progression throughout the game seem fast paced and always rewarding, given that you're always getting something exciting out of it, since all the abilities you get can not only be used for traversal but also through combat. And all the transformations you get vary a lot in terms of gameplay and unlock different areas and possibilities, so it's all just in general very fun. They really knew how to structure a game in a way that was pleasant to progress through, that made sense, and that was genuinely like fun to play, at least to me, you know? But yeah, as you can probably imagine, as you gain new transformations, you also gain back some of your lost memories. As again, they really tie the killing of bosses to the getting of new transformations and the uncovering of the story in a way that's it's pretty genius in order to give again that really good and satisfying sense of progression in a lot of different areas simultaneously, which all comes together into making a really fun game, again, in my opinion. You not only get answers to what exactly is happening, what is your mission, who you are exactly, what are those powers and these people you keep encountering from your flashbacks, but also through the events of the story, with the interaction with the few characters you do meet in your adventure. And to make this simple for you, because it alternates a lot between those present day interactions and then the flashbacks that occur as you get transformations and that vary all over the place chronologically, I'm just going to organize the story in again a nice chronological fashion in order to explain exactly what the whole deal with this game is. Like, what is happening? What is all this? What is the explanation for all these events that you're seeing? Well, essentially, the government was trying to develop a super soldier program through what's called Project Altered Beast, hence the title. The first of the soldiers to be successful was a man named Brad, which could implant a singular chip, the chip of the Were Tiger, into a device that also boosted his speed, reflexes, endurance, all the normal super soldier stuff, right? And also gave him the ability to transform into a half human, half tiger, which increased his combat capabilities tremendously, especially since it also gave him like superpowers outside of what you would even normally get by combining human and animal into this kind of chimera, you know? But anyway, after that, project moved on into phase 2, in which they wanted a super soldier that was able to transform into multiple different beasts. That was Anastasia, the woman you see at the beginning. Though her system was flawed, they never really specify why, and it really seems like, given that, well, spoilers, she's the final boss and one of the hardest in the game, and one of the most tiring ones as well, since she has like I think 5 or 6 phases. Jesus Christ, I get tired just thinking about that fight. But anyway, I don't see how her system was exactly flawed. She seems even stronger than the protagonist is lore wise. But anyway, it's somehow her system was designated as flawed, and she was quickly abandoned in like pursuit of the ideal version of the super soldier they were trying to achieve with this program, which, shocker, is you. Though as you were developed, this caused the two other like previous super soldiers created through the program to be discarded, cast aside, forgotten, as they put it, which is what caused them to become the like arguable villains of the story. Well, one more arguable than the other, but anyway, as he was discarded, Brad had this sense of like inferiority or of like unfairness because he was stronger than you. His transformation was stronger than your primary transformation. And Hin, as a super soldier in general, was initially stronger than you. So why were you chosen to be the chimera type, the culmination of all these experiments and the like ideal super soldier to receive this updated system? Why not Hin? And so has a sort of revenge for that, or maybe to protect you from Anastasia for reasons that we're going to tackle again shortly. He decided to steal the chips, and I can only assume he used them to like he must have implanted them in some of the animals in order to create the bosses you fight, which explains how you can get transformations out of them, how you can get these chips out of them, since they were what caused these what were previously normal enemies to become the bosses in the first place. Which again, it just seems like everyone can just use these chips better than the protagonist can. But I guess they're not using that to their full potential or in the ideal form, which is why the protagonist is like the perfect super soldier. But I don't know. It really just seems, given how they literally become bosses, that everyone else seems to be able to use these chips better than you. Is it maybe because they are not as rational, they're not as in control of their beast forms? Maybe that even explains how Anastasia becomes so unhinged. Maybe that's what they mean when they say that her system is flawed, that the beast maybe gets too much a hold of her mind, something like that. I don't know, man. You get the point by now. I'm just rambling. But what is true is that after that, after you get completely owned, as you probably watching, as you try to retrieve the ships that Brad stole, Anastasia also goes rogue due to being abandoned. And in a fit of what I can only describe as yandere rage, she decides to unleash the genome mist, this material that they use to make the transformation ships, into the city in which the project was originally being developed at, in order to infect the whole city, turning all of its inhabitants into monsters, in order for the government to send their perfect super soldier there in order to assess and maybe resolve their situations. Since the only things that can operate within areas infected by genome mist without turning into monsters, without being mutated, are these super soldier projects developed by the government. And one thing I forgot to explain is that the Altered Beast project wasn't the only DNA manipulating monster slash super soldier creating program. They also experimented with a lot of just straight up animals in order to create just straight up beasts, which I think it's the way they justify the bosses, which only give like new abilities to your previous transformations instead of like an entire transformation, you know? Because those bosses didn't have to swallow any chips. They were already like created that way by the same government that created you. I think that's the explanation. As you can probably gather, like the story of this game is pretty sparsely told, and I'm having to guess a lot from like snippets that I've seen in my time playing it. But anyway, so yeah, her objective with this is that her system allows her to, from what I understand, absorb the DNA of others and get essentially the powers of the creature she is able to absorb. So, knowing that Brad stole the chips, she essentially wanted to, like, her plan was to guide you pretty much to get all the chips so you could come to her and like she could absorb your DNA in order to essentially show off and get Eric's attention again. Especially the dragon chip, which is said to be the most like the strongest transformation, and it's hyped up a lot throughout the game, and it's a really good thing because a lot of times games hype up this power or this ability a lot and then they fail to deliver, but the dragon is just, it's a good thing that they leave him to the end because he's all that they all these cutscenes and characters hype the transformation to be. They legitimately have to find ways to try to nerf the dragon during boss fights or like other events just so you have a like the tiniest incentive or even are forced to use the other transformations because there's no reason otherwise to not just use the dragon for everything. But sorry for that little tangent. But yeah, she essentially manipulates you to go through all this trial in order so she can absorb you to show off to Eric, which she also absorbs. So I don't get the point. Maybe she's just insane. Too much young, too little dairy. I don't know. But yeah, initially she is pretty much immortal due to how her powers actually work, which again makes me like a question how exactly her system is flawed given that it seems to work a lot better than even your own, but I digress. But then you're saved by Brad, whose claws, as you can see by the scar on your chest, are able to create wounds which never heal, which is how you're able to even have a weak spot to defeat Anastasia for the proper boss fights. But yeah, you go through a really lengthy, really annoying, and incredibly frustrating and tiring boss fight with so many goddamn phases in which you have to use pretty much all your transformations, so at least it works on that sense of it being a conclusion to the whole gameplay loop and progression, etc., where you now must use everything that you gathered or almost everything. But anyway, after that, you win, and then you walk out of the city, presumably to go back to the government to claim mission accomplished after restoring your memory and getting all the chips and, well, getting rid of the root cause of the issue in the first place. Of course, the poor citizens of this town who did nothing to deserve this are pretty much transformed forever into these horrible abominations, but hey, you did what you could, right? And despite me like memeing about it and criticizing this game in a lot of ways, like the reason I wanted to bring it to the channel is because, as I alluded to in the past, this is genuinely like my favorite game of all time. I already discussed, I think, how I separate a lot like objective quality from my enjoyment of things, and that's got to be one of the like most prevalent examples of that. Like I can criticize this game for a lot of things, as many people have, for its horrible aiming system or lack thereof, for like some of the transformations clearly being more useful or better or just more fun than others. the story, which was a complete mess that I was barely able to make into something cohesive for this video. There's so much you can criticize about this game, but I still love it. Not only just because I think it's a fun game that I have fun revisiting pretty much every time. I've played this game like more than 6 times at this point already. It's not even that extensive a game or one with too much replay value, really. But I just can't help but replay it every like few years, and I have a blast every time despite all of its like objective flaws. And besides that, it's just a game that is important to me from a personal perspective. It's a game that pretty much shaped my childhood, as weird as that may be to say about a game this gory and violent. And it led me to many friendships which I still, while I may not have them today, I still think they are valuable, and they are still important to me despite me not contacting those people anymore. The moments I shared with them due to this game are things I'll never forget. And again, as much as I criticize it and as much as it deserves that criticism, I would like to thank each and every one of the people you're probably seeing like in the credits of this game that worked on it and brought it to reality for making it. As cheesy and stupid as that is to say, I legitimately don't think I would be the person I am right now if this game didn't exist. So, for your hard, though flawed work, I like to thank each and every single person that worked on this. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for making my favorite game of all time. And again, as cheesy and needlessly emotional as that is, that's where I'd think it be appropriate to leave you all today. Thank you for watching. And that will be it for today. If you like this video, please do all the normal YouTube stuff. You know, like, comment, subscribe, etc. And I genuinely do hope to see you next time. If you really liked it, I'd also really appreciate if you could support me financially, either through a one-time paid comment donation or by joining my membership, where for $1 a month, you get to participate in exclusive polls in order to decide which videos I'll make next. Like, which of my plans should I focus on? Which of the content I have in mind do you want to see first? You know, that kind of thing. As well as get your name put in this fancy little screen right here. You know, just as a small gesture of appreciation, exactly for your monthly support. But of course, no matter how much you choose to give me, as well as if you choose to give me anything at all, do know that I really appreciate any cent you're willing to throw my way, as well as just the fact that you're watching this video up to this point at all. But with all that stuff out of the way, I think it's finally time to, as always, bid you guys farewell. Obscure Anime out.